Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we're here to talk about one of my favorite actors that I had still for some reason never covered in a video, and I'm talking about Rock Hudson. If this is your first video, my name is Medium, and in this channel I talk about as much as I can about classic movies and the people who made them possible, because it is a topic that I absolutely love. Now, in view of recent depictions of Rock Hudson, like in Ryan Murphy's series Hollywood, I felt compelled to talk about his work as an actor and why he has been one of my favorites for a very long time, and why I think that aside from his personal life, he deserves to be appreciated a lot more. So that's what we're here for today, and I will also be discussing my 5 favorite Rock Hudson movies. Aside from his obvious super good looks and his voice, which I think is one of the most beautiful voices I've ever heard. Through watching more of his films, I discovered a very talented actor who could navigate from different genres with great results, finding his own style. He was directed on 9 occasions by Douglas Sirk, also a director that I admired for a very long time, whose work is now properly praised, as it should, in my opinion. The German filmmaker saw what Hudson was capable of giving as a performer in roles like the ones in Magnificent Obsession, and also later on The Tarnished Angels, which is a more mature role that he took. I have to admit though that I first discovered Rock Hudson in adventure and western roles in his early career that were broadcasted on TV when I was little. It was films like The Golden Blade or Band of River that made me develop a huge crush on him at the time. I'm talking about when I was 12 or 13, I think. And as I would normally do, I wanted to learn more about him. I read about his life, I read biographies, which sometimes you know that you have to take with a grain of salt, and tried to find as many movies of his as I could. And I discovered then Douglas Sirk's melodramas and other roles like the one he plays in Giant, and his comedies with Doris Day and Gina Lollobrigida, and action and war movies. Also other melodramas like This Earth Is Mine, even Darling Lily with Julie Andrews. I think I've watched a fair amount of his films now. I found that in practically all his movies he was in a way this perfect, handsome, big, strong man, but also showed in many performances a side of vulnerability. He was charismatic, he was outgoing, yet there was a sense of being more introvert in most of his work. And also he brought incredible comedic timing, especially in the scenes where he got angry, which I think he did the best. And also he portrayed, or he disguised as someone else. So I think the best thing I could do to honor his contribution to movies and to express my gratitude for all the enjoyment was to highlight 5 of my favorite films that he appeared in, and that I hope that it will bring as much joy, as much happiness to you as he has brought to me. So here is my personal tribute to Rock Hudson, and these are my 5 favorite films that he made. If you watch one of my previous videos on classic movie couples with best chemistry, you'd know by now that I love Rock Hudson and Doris Day together. And while I love Pillow Talk, and it is a movie that I enjoy watching over and over again, there is something about Lover Come Back that has always been special for me. As much as I loved Rock Hudson impersonating this kind of like Texan stereotype in Pillow Talk, this Rex Stetson, which seemed to be also like a caricature of his role in Giant, I truly adore how he disguises as Dr. Linus Tyler here. This naive and innocent chemist is brilliant.
Naturally. And I admire your integrity.
Well, Miss Templeton, I have a code by which I live. And I told this to Webster, too. Veritas et robitas super omnia.
So that's where he stole it.
I beg your pardon?
And his chemistry here with Doris Day is at its best, as it was too in Pillow Talk, but in here I think they both knew each other more, and it is beautiful to watch. It also has a brilliant cast, including Tony Randall again, whom I believe has a stronger role in Lover Come Back and has some of the best lines in the film.
Going for you, poverty, squalor. There's only one way for you to go, up. But I started at the top. I've done it the hard way.
And also Jack Kershaw, who plays the authentic Linus Tyler, and Eddie Adams, who is a wonderful actress, and she's brilliant in every film I've ever seen. And incidentally, they both appear a year before in The Apartment. And although some jokes and situations might feel dated nowadays, I believe also again that Doris Day and Rock Hudson here are amazing, turning their previous images around and creating what it was, a new model of comedy. In any case, it is so much fun to watch. It is a movie that I truly recommend, one in which Rock Hudson gives all he's got, and I think he does a brilliant job here with wonderful actors around like Tony Randall and Doris Day. He is magnificent at laughing at himself, at portraying this naive chemist while he's this womanizer publicist. It is, again, I think one of his best comedy roles. Another film of his that I've enjoyed a lot for very different reasons is the western called The Last Sunset, which is a western directed by Robert Aldrich and written by Dalton Trumbo, and who, if you don't know, was a writer that was deeply affected by being blacklisted. In this case, he wrote a very absorbing and tense western with a Greek tragedy twist, and for some reason I've always enjoyed and appreciated this movie, even though I must admit that it has its flaws too. And again, as I said, the premise for this western is a fairly common one. In the beginning is one character pursuing another. In this case, it's a sheriff played by Hudson, who is after Kirk Douglas' character here for a murder he committed. There's also this extra motivation for Hudson because Kirk Douglas killed his brother-in-law, so obviously he is relentless. And to make matters even more agitated, we have also the presence of Dorothy Malone, who was previously a sweetheart of Kirk Douglas' character, who is now married to Joseph Cotten and who has a daughter, and for whom Rock Hudson starts developing romantic feelings. So you can see where all this is going, not to a very good place. And also Dorothy Malone's daughter, played by Carol Lindley, also becomes deeply infatuated by Kirk Douglas. Catastrophe ensues here, and particularly what I like about this film is by the end of the movie they somehow reached a certain mutual respect, even with all the past, with everything that's going on, which I won't reveal because it can be a lot to take. And even though Kirk Douglas, who probably steals the show in many instances, I find that Rock Hudson's performance here is so balanced, such a committed performance on his part. And I also read recently that Robert Aldrich had nothing but praise for Rock Hudson's professionalism during the filming of this movie. He said that Rock Hudson, of all people, emerged from it more creditably than anyone. Most people don't consider him a very accomplished actor, but I found him terribly hardworking and dedicated and very serious. So for all of these reasons, if you ever want to watch a very gripping, gritty western with unresolved conflict and tension that keeps building up, this is a western that you will find right up your alley. Another of Rock Hudson's most successful comedy pairings was certainly the one with Gina Lollobrigida. In Come September, in my opinion, is when their chemistry was at its best. Robert Mulligan, in this case, was the eclectic filmmaker that directed this movie, and he's probably best known for the film To Kill a Mockingbird, a favorite of mine, and also Love with a Proper Stranger with Natalie Wood and Steve McQueen, which is another one that I really like. And I think it's also a director who, much like Rock Hudson, deserves a bit of more recognition for his work, for his contribution. And in this case, it's a total different film from the two that I've just mentioned. It's a comedy, a fantastic romantic comedy in my opinion. It is filled with probably all the best ingredients that you need ever to make a good romantic comedy, and those are a fantastic script, also again by Stanley Shapiro and Maurice Ricklin, who also wrote Pillow Talk and Lover Come Back. You can pretty much be sure the dialogue is going to be fantastic. You have also a brilliant, beautiful score with 2 songs by Bobby Darin.
That's the name of the game, and each generation plays the same. Let me tell you now, Mother Nature's a clever gal. She relies on habits. Take 2 hairs with no cares. Pretty soon you got a room full of rabbits.
It was at the height of its popularity here, and you have an idyllic, a beautiful romantic destination, which is Italy, and you have glorious performances with actors who happen to have wonderful chemistry, like again Rock Hudson and Gina Lollobrigida, and also Bobby Darin and Sandra Dee, who fell in love during the making of this movie and who show, in my opinion, great comedy skills. And you have also veteran actor like Walter Slezak, who plays the butler of the villa that Rock Hudson owns in this movie, and who's brilliant too, I must say. And again, as I was saying before, the dialogue here is fantastic, especially for Rock Hudson, who has brilliant lines, I think, and Gina too.
What can happen to them? There are 4 boys and 6 girls. That adds up to 10. And they are safety numbers.
Now there's more to mathematics than adding. Those boys look quite capable of dividing and multiplying.
There's a lot of battle of sexes to a view that, again, in many ways might feel dated now, but that in any case it's fabulously portrayed and gives us a view of the roles of men and women, the conceptions around sex, the standards for men and women. It's something that, yes, it's dated, but in some instances still persists. And aside from the battle of sexes, what I really enjoy watching here the most, and what makes me laugh at sometimes the most, is also the competition between Rock Hudson and Bobby Darin, because there's no Tony Randall in this case. The whole Darin and Hudson makes up for that. It's a lightweight, funny, bubbly, beautifully photographed movie with a wonderful ending. One of my favorite comedies from the 60s. And I think that's a thrill to watch, and I truly recommend you giving it a chance if you haven't already. I had to stop and film again this last half of the video because for some reason the audio didn't seem to work in this part, so here I am again talking about the films that I love about Rock Hudson. I'm not too sure if you've heard about the movie called Man's Favorite Sport, and it was directed in 1964 by Howard Hawks, and it was a movie that was originally intended for Cary Grant. In fact, I read that he was offered both Charade and this movie, and initially Cary Grant had accepted Man's Favorite Sport to work again with Howard Hawks, but he was worried for both movies about the age difference between him and the leading lady, and he was weary about both movies, and again had initially accepted this one but then backed out and felt that Charade was best suited for him, which I think it was a great decision. And the actor that took over his place was Rock Hudson. In this case, it's no wonder that Howard Hawks thought of Cary Grant, because I read also that initially this was like a tribute, some sort of continuity comedy of Bringing Up Baby, and in fact is very much reminiscent of the 30s screwball comedies and certainly of Bringing Up Baby. It even contains a spoof of a famous scene from that movie, and in this case it's also a comedy role, but I think that in Man's Favorite Sport, Rock Hudson truly owns the movie, and he is wonderful using his, again, comedy skills, also his big size, his awkwardness, because there's lots of physical comedy in here. In fact, this is a movie that it's much more a succession of gags than anything else. So again, we see Rock Hudson truly performing physical comedy, very much again reminiscent of screwball comedies and even silent movies. I think he's truly fantastic here. It's another side of him that we don't usually get to see in comedies, and I think he did a terrific job. As always, he's brilliant when he's mad, and he was brilliant at physical comedy too. So it's a movie that perhaps is now very much forgotten, but that I think has a lot of value. The premise is again very funny. And here, Rock Hudson plays a salesman and a fishing expert.
About 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning would be your best time. Water should be around 68 degrees.
68 degrees. What kind of a lure and how deep?
Just under the surface, and use either a Colorado spinner or a super duper.
Amazing.
And he is offered to enter a fishing tournament in Lake Wakapuchi. I love the names in this movie. By the way, all the names here are fantastically picked for comedy purposes. So he's very much reluctant of taking part in the tournament because, as it turns out, he has no idea about how to fish. He doesn't even like fish. He doesn't even swim. So he's basically obviously scared that his secret will be revealed and he will lose his job and his clients and everything else. So it's no wonder he's reluctant. But Paula Prentice, who is the leading lady here, who plays Abigail Page and who's trying to help her friend and her father, who own the lodge at Lake Wakapuchi, to boost their business, somehow manages to convince him to take part and tells him that she's going to help him and everything's going to be okay. And you know, those lines in life that mean exactly the opposite of what they stand for. So every time someone tells you, don't worry, it's gonna be okay, you pretty much know that you're in trouble. And that's what happens here in this movie. I mean, he manages to fish a lot, but not on purpose. And I won't reveal anything else about the plot because I think that it's pretty much worth that you watch the story or the gags as they develop. And the dynamics again between Rock Hudson and Paula Prentice here are very similar to the ones in Bringing Up Baby. She plays a similar character to the one that Katharine Hepburn played so wonderfully, and Rock Hudson is in a way Cary Grant in Bringing Up Baby, but with a different approach. Again, he brings his own personality here, and in fact, as I was saying in the beginning, I think it's pretty much Rock Hudson's movie, to be honest, whereas the other comedies that we've seen, I think they were a 50-50. It's not that Paula Prentice is not terrific here. I think she is, but I think that the chemistry perhaps is not as powerful between them as in Pillow Talk or Come September or Lover Come Back. And since it's pretty much a succession of gags, Rock Hudson is in the majority of those gags, so he pretty much carries the comedy weight of the movie. Upon its release though, it was a flop. I don't think that this kind of comedy in the 60s truly gelled with the public. I think that audiences were expecting something else or something different. It has again many points in favor, like Rock Hudson and Paula Prentice's performances, the expert hand of Howard Hawks, great comedy cast with character actors like John MacGyver, who is wonderful here.
Willoughby, this is your lucky day.
It is?
Absolutely. You are entering the fishing tournament at Lake Wakapuchi.
Oh, horse feathers.
And also Roscoe Carnes, who was an actor that was famous in the 30s. And I believe this was his last role in film. And we also have Henry Mancini's music, who is one of my favorite composers. And there's a lot to love about this film, lots of points in favor again, and I don't think you'll regret watching this one. I was going to talk about Written on the Wind as the final favorite film today, but there's so much to cover about that movie. I think it is so rich in so many aspects that it will take me a whole video dedicated to that one. So instead, for the purposes of keeping this video at a manageable length, I'm going to talk about All That Heaven Allows, which is my favorite, with Rock Hudson, Jane Wyman, and directed by Douglas Sirk. It is a truly wonderful melodrama, and in here, Rock Hudson plays the ultimate, I think, romantic leading man. I mean, starting from his profession, he takes care of nature, of trees. He plays such a fantastic man.
China, where it comes from, they call it the golden rain tree. Beautiful, isn't it? They say it can only thrive near a home where there's love.
Who has such great ideals. He dances. He, again, loves nature and reads fantastic books, and he looks wonderful in plaid shirts. He is absolutely charming, wonderful, and one that for some reason Jane Wyman seems to be running away from. So what's up with you, Jane? She manages to listen to her hideous children, who are very much grown up, her so-called friends, and she just pushes Rock aside. And she's just this close to losing him. So yes, it's a movie that it can be nerve-wracking at times, but that is so brilliant. It is one of the best melodramas ever made, I think. One that points out the danger of conforming to society norms, to what people expect of you, and how important it is to live life in your own terms.
You can't.
Don't you see I'd be turning my back on everything I've ever known? Ron, isn't it enough that we love each other?
No, Carrie. It isn't. It isn't enough for either of us. You're running away from something important because you're afraid.
It is beautiful and amazing and full again of all the imaginary that characterized Douglas Sirk work. It is full of mirrors, of reflections, dramatic lighting, lavish decorations. I think that surpasses any genre cliche and elevates the movie to a whole other level. Performances too, I have to say, are brilliant here. Aside from Wyman and Hudson, we have Agnes Moorehead, and even the children, the actors that play the children, Gloria Talbot and William Reynolds, are very good at being really hideous. And looking back, it is amazing how this director, this German director, managed to capture and pinpoint what was hidden underneath the American dream and in American society at the time, while also being fascinated by it. And it is a movie that I cannot also recommend more. It is a wonderful, wonderful piece of art. And in this case, Rock Hudson plays a more archetypical, as I was saying in the beginning, idealized, probably, male figure, but he does a terrific job at it and truly committed to what the story is about, what Sirk wants to convey with a picture, and it is certainly one that I watch multiple times a year. Alright, so that was all for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed me gushing over Rock Hudson, and I would like to know too if there's a movie of him that you too enjoy, that is your favorite, in this case, that I haven't mentioned in this video. There are still other films in terms of appreciating his acting, like Seconds by John Frankenheimer or Spiral Road by Robert Mulligan too. There's a lot more in his filmography aside from comedies and melodramas, but obviously those are the ones that are closer to my heart, that I really enjoy watching over and over again, and that I think too reveal his professionalism and talent for acting and his charisma. And this video is somehow a thank you note on my part to Rock Hudson for how much happiness, as I was saying at the beginning of this video, he's brought to me, and also this video is in the hopes of discussing more his acting, because somehow is again overlooked or even sneered at, and I don't think that's the case. I think he was a very capable, fantastic actor. So again, I hope this video comes across as that, as a tribute on my part. These are, as always, my opinions, and as always, again, stay safe, take care, let's keep sharing what we love. Thank you so much for watching and for all the support, and see you all in my next video. Bye!